welcome to a new episode of the Wet Palate Podcast. My name is Brenda Popritkin, and I am your host. I'm a Cuban-American writer and podcaster passionate about food, wine, and travel. I review Miami restaurants and spotlight local chefs, soms, and others within our food community. I'm a Michelin dining enthusiast, but nothing is off limits. After all, I was raised on pan cubano, cafecito, and pastelitos. If you're into traveling for food, especially fine dining, you might know my guest as Memories of a Gourmand on social media. Meet Jhonatan Cano. He is the Director of Operations at 1 Michelin-starred Bresca and 2 Michelin-starred JONT in DC, two of my favorites, but also the Director of Operations at our newest Fort Lauderdale edition, MAASS, at the Four Seasons, and one of my overall favorite dinners for 2024 so far, Omo in Orlando. He has visited 39 countries. Is it still 39?
Yeah.
And he has dined at more than 1,000 Michelin stars and has now stopped counting. Today, he's in modest Pembroke Pines with me to chat about it all. Welcome, Jhonatan. Woo!
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure being here. We're talking about this for a while, so...
We have been talking about this for a while.
Finally, we made it happen.
Yes, by the way, I have pastelitos here for you. If you want a little snack, we could stop.
And the Red Bull,
And of course, the Red Bull. Thank you so much for coming in. I know we've been talking about this interview for a while, like you said, but first things first. In the spirit of hospitality, like you just said, your specialty, today I got us a treat, which happens to be a favorite of yours, Red Bull. But I have a confession to make. I've never had a Red Bull.
No way.
Way. I'm not sure it's a good idea since I already talk 1,000 miles per hour, but I'm doing this for you today. So we're going to toast with the Red Bull.
Amazing.
Wait. Hold on. Let me see if I can open it.
It's your first.
First.
It's going to change your life.
Oh, shit. I'm scared.
Cheers.
This one has no sugar, so at least I did that. Let's see. Oh, man. Okay.
It's sugar bomb.
And this one it's sugar-free, right?
Sugar-free. But still, I think you feel like all the rush. Right?
Ay, Dios mío. Okay, guys. It's his fault if I start talking like 2,000 miles per hour. All right. So you were born and raised in Lima, Peru. Tell me about little Jhonatan. Tell me, what was your favorite food growing up?
Little Jhonatan. That's a very good question. I grew up in my family cooked a lot. You know, I think my grandma and my father are really, really amazing cooks. So I grew up eating like a homemade cuisine, homemade food. My all-time favorite dish, and my dad has it every time I get back to Peru, is tallarines or spaghetti Alfredo sauce.
Oh.
Some hot dog chopped in, Parmesan cheese, very humble, very delicious, but that's kind of like my super comfort food. But yeah, I grew up eating at home, very often, not much dining out until I became a teenager. You know, I think around 16, 17, that's what I think I experienced my first fine dining experience in Peru.
As a teen?
As a teen, yes. I saved, because I moved here right before I turned 18. So 17, late 17, I moved to Florida. Okay. I was already studying a little bit of hospitality, hotel tourism management in Peru. I was very intrigued in what kind of like cuisines and what's happening in Peruvian gastronomy. And of course, Gaston Acurio was, like the god of gastronomy, which probably still is, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, probably still is.
And I saved a little bit of like the money I had aside, and I was able to go to a Street Gaston, the original location. And I still remember, anticuchos and foie gras, like this mix of French Peruvian that was a little bit the norm on those times. And that was the first time I explored fine dining and being able to see how, you can translate humble ingredients or local culture into a dining scene, into a table, is something that really impacted me. Food as a medium of, telling a story of cultures.
Could you go with, was it a special occasion or?
No, it was just like a curiosity. I think I've always been very curious. I dine out more about learning than to eat. So I think that was the first time that started sparkle something in me. It's kind of like let me learn about this restaurant. Why this restaurant? I see it in all the articles, in all the news.
Right.
Why people say it's good. I need to see it on my own, if it's good.
You have it there in your backyard.
Exactly,
so why not?
I have a saying, don't wait, don't let someone tell you, go and see it yourself. And I think I apply that a lot for restaurants, right? You hear, this is great, this is best, this is new, this is delicious, but let me go actually and taste it myself so I can have my own opinion. And I can be able to talk about it when people say, oh, this restaurant is great or not. And it's like, actually I dined there and this is my experience, right? And I started all that when I was, maybe 16, 17 in trying to explore these kind of restaurants on my own. And then as I moved here into the USA, I went to school in FIU, started to work in hotels, and I started doing the same, right? In hotels, we were trying to fight for the 5 diamonds, AAA, the 4th 5 stars. So I used to go to hotels that have restaurants with 5 diamonds and 5 stars and see what are they doing, for us to be able to apply those things. So for me, going to a restaurant has always been not only, now it's therapeutic, right? But it's always been about discovering and seeing the story and the narrative, see how they communicate what the chef or the team wants to say, and how they communicate it and be able to learn from that.
Okay. So actually I love when guests do this, that you kind of segue yourself into my next question, which is it's great because then I don't have to ask it. It's just natural. I asked, how did you end up in Miami for the first time? You answered. And then the hotels, brands like Ritz-Carlton, Conrad, and the Waldorf Astoria, which I was going to ask you about. So then what was the day that you said, I want to pivot from hotels to restaurants?
It was around 2009. When I went to Chicago to dine to a restaurant that, you might know it, but it's called Alinea. And actually,
I think I've heard of it. I don't know. Yeah.
It was a great weekend. Actually, I was working in Miami, the Conrad, with a mutual friend, Miguel Massens, right, from Serea.
Another one of my questions. Next. Next. Miguel, you will be highlighted.
He was my boss, actually. He was my boss.
Ooh.
And he was already getting himself a little bit into fine dining. I think by then, I don't know if he already moved to New York, but we got a group together and we traveled to Chicago to dine at this, famous restaurant called Alinea. And it was one of my first Michelin-starred experiences, or 3-star experiences at that moment, right?
And that was good. That was Alinea, and it's Alinea-ness. When it was...
Yeah, you had a grandma on the kitchen, every single day, right? Which he still is, but, in a different element. Yeah. We actually had amazing preview, so that's what that trip meant so much to me. So Miguel and I actually went to Charlie Trotter to dine the night before. The movie's out now, so it's very exciting. And we were able to experience what everyone has talked about, it, right? We got the books, right? Lessons in Service, Lessons in Excellence, Lessons in Wine from Charlie Trotter. We read how when you buy a very nice bottle of wine, he will alter the whole tasting menu to be able to make the perfect pairing. So at that time, and probably up to now, very few restaurants do that, right? Very few restaurants will say, okay, I'm going to change my menu that I worked so hard. So it's actually a perfect pairing to your amazing wine. You're spending 10 times more money on wine than in food. Let me not do that to you.
Some restaurants can't even do a proper pairing.
that's a whole...
Let's start there.
Honestly, yeah. It's a bit misconception between actually a wine pairing and just a wine, a journey, right? I think more restaurants do a wine journey than a wine pairing, to be honest.
Yeah.
We can go a little bit deeper into favorite wine pairings, actually. But yeah, going back to Charlie Trotter, we ordered my first, a crazy bottle of wine. We ordered a Chateau Mouton from 1986, a split bottle. Couldn't afford anything at that time. Of course, the food changed completely and the flavors were mind-blowing. To be honest, I've never experienced something like that with wine and food, and it truly clicked. It's kind of you are eating the wine and then the food is developing. You are eating the food and the wine is developing. It was insanity. It was crazy. And the next day, of course, we went to Alinea, group of 6 people. And, like, it's magical. It was magical. Not only the food was absolutely delicious, but I do remember a lot, like the surprises, the playfulness.
Right.
It was kind of like a magic was happening in front of you. But even the service was so attentive. And it's like they had a microphone in your table.
Right. I always say that. Somebody has a microphone.
For real. For real.
Yeah.
They have like cameras or something. We were like mentioning, where should we go for breakfast tomorrow morning? We should get some pastries. And suddenly someone slips in a little envelope that has been written in calligraphy with their favorite breakfast spots. Then, like I'm wondering, like why is the water not condensing? It's cooling off, and there's no coaster on the table. And of course, they cooling their water to the exact temperature, which is cooling off, but no condensation happens. And the whole night was just full of these surprises. And it really changed my life. And I think since that moment for me was, I want to do something like that. I think restaurant has the power to truly change your perspective, can change your day. You can have a horrible day. You can have a fight at work or anything like that. You come to a restaurant, there's the potential to truly for you to forget about it and be happy for 1 hour, 5 hours, 9 hours if you're dining an alchemist. But are places that can be transporting, transformational, and it's all about the people who does it, the people who makes the food, the people who creates the experience, the people who is talking to you. Since that moment, for me, it was kind of like I cannot achieve this in a hotel. Right? And I think now you can. Now hotels, especially in the USA, are putting a lot more effort in food and beverage. Asia is a completely different story, right? They are like years ahead of us in hotel dining. But at that time, especially in Miami, like a hotels was about the whole thing, right? It was not about dining. It's not about fine dining. Even though restaurants were great restaurants, and I wanted to do that. And I think that's why I decided to move into standalone restaurants. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about meeting Chef Jose Andres for the first time, the relationship, and then leading at Minibar and Bar Mini. And second part of the question, how did the restaurant evolve during those 8 years you were there?
Yeah.
Comparing like your first day to your last.
Yeah, of course. I think in that transition, I was looking for a change, right? I wanted to do what these places were doing. So I went do a little bit of stage at Daniel, 11 Madison Park. New York was kind of like the capital of fine dining in the United States. So I was kind of like, let me go to New York for a bit. And then I was missing a little bit of the structure of hotels, right? Hotels has these structures. There are big chains like Hilton, Conrad, Waldorf Astoria, Ritz-Carlton. They've done it already, right? There's so much that you can learn from them versus a standalone restaurant that everyone is trying to figure it out on their own. Right. So I wanted to try to find what's the best balance. I want to work in a high-end hotel company, but it's putting the great efforts in food and beverage. I already knew about Jose Andres from Minibar. This was doing like a crazy things at the time.
But it had just opened, no?
Minibar in the new location opened in 2012.
Okay.
But the old location it opened in 2003. So since 2003, he had 6 seats. It's kind of like a bar seat that you will see in a restaurant, inside a restaurant called Café Atlántico. And he was doing that reinterpretation of El Bulli dishes in Washington, D.C. Already so many things being written about it. Of course, closer to 2012, there was more things being written about food and beverage in general in the USA. But I was looking for that mix of great food and beverage in a great hotel company. And I find out that Ritz-Carlton was opening their first Ritz-Carlton Reserve in America, which is the 1%ers of the 1%ers, in Dorado, Puerto Rico. And the chef there was going to be Jose Andres. And I said, okay, this seems like a great opportunity, great culinary mind, like at the top hotel of the Ritz-Carlton, which, was a top hotel by them. And I decided to apply, and I was able to luckily get the position, moved to Dorado, Puerto Rico, which became like a second home for me. I still go every year. It's amazing. I was able to run the restaurant and the beverage program for Jose Andres. It was called Mi Casa. It was a Spanish fine dining experience, a lot of table size, a lot of molecular. We're able to get top 100 restaurant hotels in the world, 4 or 5 stars, 5 diamonds. And it was a beautiful experience meeting Jose as well. And I think since there, working towards Jose's vision and being far away, and this is something I learned working with celebrity chefs and hotels, they're always want different things, right? So I think those roles for the food and beverage operator, it's very hard because you need to appease the hotel company, you need to appease ownership, and you need to appease the celebrity chef. And I think that's where I prove a little bit, like I truly like and love the vision that Jose had with food and beverage. And I was able to represent him in a very successful way in the 2.5 years, 3 years that I was in Puerto Rico. And that he gave me an opportunity to go and run his restaurant in Washington, D.C. So Minibar, Amber Mini. So rumors were that the Michelin guy was coming into Washington, D.C. So there's a lot of things that they needed to change in the whole industry, right? It's a whole different ballgame. When I moved to D.C., experiencing Minibar, I always wanted to work in a place like that, right? 12 seats. The goal was kind of like to be the best of the best, right? And then the structure of the company was set up that you can be the best of the best. But yeah, working with him and meeting him was amazing. He's a visionary, right? He's always ahead of the game. And every time I had a conversation with him, it was like that, like I was very perfectionist and tried to have everything in the right place. But he always came and had an idea. Hey, how about we put this there? Do you think would be better? And it's something that I've been doing every day, and I thought it about like 100 times.
Right.
But that was the 101 time that I didn't think about it, that he saw. And every time it was like, yeah, chef, that actually makes a lot of sense. And that's actually something that can make the restaurant better, the team better, anything like that. So that's something that he always had on me. It's kind of like I could never win him one over. He will come from a while, great memory, right? He will remember what he says always, but he will always see something different and something about the future that I didn't see. And I think that's something that I truly, truly enjoy working with him. And of course, like the level of pressure that working with this caliber of people, I think is insane, right? But I think we are, we're built to work like that, like a fine dining or restaurants that are pushing for excellence in the terms of experience are like any athletes, right? You just are, pushing yourself to the maximum. So the level of pressures are always very high. But yeah, so I started in Minibar in early 2015 until 2020. So it was like 5 years under Minibar, 3 years under his restaurant in Puerto Rico. There was a lot of differences, since we started, we were able to build a beautiful team. I arrived into a great team, and then I think I was able to leave with a lot of people that we worked through those years to being able to now run many different restaurants in Washington, D.C. And for me, it's kind of like the greatest pride as a manager is to see someone realize their goals, right? And I think that's when someone works with me, they come in and it's like, hey, what are your goals, right? My goal here as a manager is that you achieve your goal. Do you want to get promoted? Do you want to actually just use this place as a stepping stone to go somewhere else? It's fine. I just need to know the truth because I can give you the tools and I can prepare you for whatever is next. I think one of the greatest gifts as a manager is see someone else achieve and realize their goals through promotions, through change of lifestyles, through anything. And I think what you mentioned was the difference that you saw when you arrived until the end is that I think we created a beautiful community, not only in Washington, D.C., but nationally and internationally, of people that came through our doors and then they left with gratitude, with a lot more tools in their box to be able to go out and lead great teams, around the world. I was just literally with one of our former lead bartenders. She's now leading the bar program at the Mandarin Oriental in Bangkok, right? We have managers that is like, take a look at, you know, Andrew, right? Like from JONT, is the general manager from JONT. He started as a captain at Minibar and now leading the best restaurant in Washington, D.C.
With the best duck.
With the best duck,
in the world.
Right? I think things like that was great to see, you know, the community, the alumni that we were able to build during those 5 years in such a small space. You know, that was great.
And spoiler alert, John on my mind. Minibar ended up getting on the diet, and did they start at 2?
Yes.
So we retained 2. It got and then has retained 2.
Yeah, we debuted with 2 Michelin stars on the first release of the Michelin Guide. It was kind of like the goal. The goal was always 3, right? But yeah. I think 2 was amazing. And we were able to win, I think, you know, like all the awards that we set up ourselves too. Chef Jose was able to get Icon Award in the 50 Best. Nationally, we were able to get number 1 in the Washingtonian and number 4 stars in the Washington Post when Tom used to give stars. All the awards in the Ramis, which is the local restaurant association, best restaurant, best fine dining, best cocktail bar, best wines, etc. So it was a really beautiful run. You know, it was very fun. Always pushing yourself harder and being able to work with an amazing team.
At what point did you meet Ryan Ratino?
I met Chef Ryan 2016, I would say. I think like the first time I met him,
it's almost like right away.
Yeah, like probably like a year after, because he came into DC working on MAASS 14, and then he moved into Ripple. And I think when he was into Ripple, that's where I met him. I went to dine. Then it's kind of like a colleagues, right? Like we are in the same industry. This is very tight for the most part. He was actually making a lot of a splash into the DC restaurant, very young chef, you know, taking over a chef counter in MAASS 14, doing a very delicious and very innovative cuisine. Then at Ripple, which was a staple in Washington, DC, took the reins there. I went to try his food and I was very, very, very excited. And then of 2017, he opens Bresca, right? You know, first restaurant of its kind within Washington, D.C., taking advantage of the neo-bistro movement, you know, coming from France. I became kind of like a regular at Bresca. That's my favorite restaurant.
You were a groupie.
I was. That was my favorite restaurant in D.C. I used to send everyone there. Like, if you will go to D.C., I was working with Jose by then, and you came to DC and they tell me, hey, where should we go to eat? You should go to Bresca, you know? Yeah. I go there on my days off if I'm in town, right? But yeah, I really, really love his food. I started to go very often to his restaurant. Actually, Bresca is celebrating its 7-year anniversary this week. And I was looking at the pictures from my first dinner at Bresca, my second dinner at Bresca. And it was just nice to look at back those memories and see the style of food that we were doing there. But yeah, so I met Ryan there, and in 2019, a mutual friend kind of like makes the comment to, hey, you guys, you know, should, you know, like do something together. And he mentioned, you know, like you are the new Daniel Hahn Guidara of, you know, like of the future or something like that. Kind of like on that service and culinary partnership. His name is Jason. Hopefully he listens to this, but he kind of like put the back in our heads about, you know, being able to a potential partnership. By then, Ryan was already ideating JONT to being able to open it in the second floor of Bresca. And honestly, what I saw is kind of like a chef, you know, like I don't know if you've seen Bresca kitchen. It is small. It's very tiny. And chef, you are doing like 188 covers a night out of Bresca, doing this amazing food, doing so many courses out of this space. I just can't imagine what we can do on 14 seats, you know, with like a full team on just a very controlled environment. You can go crazy, right? And that became JONT, right? So we chatted a little bit. By that time, I think I was looking for my next challenge in my career. I was looking for a lot more responsibilities, a lot more autonomy.
Right.
Now I'm a partner at Hive Hospitality. Spoke with Jose. I gave him like a 9 months notice, right? He was very generous in offering me, like a lot of things internationally. Like they opened Dubai. There were plans to open Japan at that time. And to be honest, like it felt right to stay in DC. It felt right to partner with Ryan and the team. Truly, I was very excited for what we could have done together, what we did together actually, right?
What you're doing together.
What we're doing together, yeah.
Yeah.
It's we are very excited about all the potential things that could come out of this partnership, and yeah, we were able to. January of 2020, I started with Bresca and JONT. Then, of course, pandemic hit 2 months after.
Yeah. I didn't realize, right? That was around that time.
It was like right after. It was right after. Which for us, pandemic was great. For us, I think young group, resilient. We were just excited and ready to eat the world. We shut down for like a week and a half. And we said, hey, how can we get back? And then we started to do carry out. Carry out was busier than being open. It was just crazy. So because carry out was so busy, that really allowed us to keep building JONT.
Right.
And then, we opened the space of JONT in July. So we ran a Bresca pop-up for a few months in the JONT space, kind of like when we get acclimated to people that want to dine out, they don't want to dine out, are they spending money in restaurants while doing carry out? And then November of 2020, we launched JONT as its own menus, its own branding. Same day that we launched JONT, we reopened Bresca for dining in. And then we were able to get 2 stars within 4 months of opening with JONT, fastest restaurant in America.
Crazy.
Chef being the youngest chef in America to get 2 stars. So it was amazing. And since then, it's just been an amazing ride. We get a lot of exposure for that. We were able to nurture a really amazing team at both Bresca and JONT. A lot of opportunities, came knocking at the door after that success. And now you see us, 2 restaurants in Florida.
Yes,
we're opening
you're here.
1 more in LA, 1 cocktail bar in DC next month, and a lot more things coming up. So it's been a wonderful ride so far.
Is there any topic that you and Ryan butt heads on?
Any topics that we butt heads on?
Like disagree or like when that topic comes up, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I would say yes, and I think that's the beauty of the great partnerships. And we're 4 partners in Hive Hospitality,
Yes.
right? And I think everyone brings a different strength from culinary, business, service operations. And I think that what makes us great is because we have different views, but we all are aiming towards the same goal. So that I think really give us a lot of better tools. But I couldn't say like a one thing that we completely disagree. There's, I think, different avenues that we find, but at the end of the day, it takes us to the end goal. I think so. I think that's what this partnership works well, and it's working so nice for the past almost 5 years. It's because we, at the end of the day, we always see eye to eye with the goals, and that's the thing that's important. It's kind of like having the goals clear. Because when you have the goal clear, like as far as you're getting there, you're doing the right thing.
Thank you for answering literally the next 3 questions I had on my thing.
Is that a thing that I'm doing now?
No, but it's best.
I haven't read it.
No, it's the best. It just means I was also on the right track because I had them in the right order. So yeah, you're co-owner and partner in all these concepts.
I'm a partner of Hive Hospitality, yes, which
owns all the
concepts
JONTs,
that we have.
all
Yes.
the Bresca and Omo and JONT. As you know, I'm rooting for JONT to receive its 3rd star this year and last year.
We all.
As I know you are too, of course. In your words, tell me why JONT deserves it and why it means so much to you.
I think the 3rd Michelin star is the pinnacle of any restaurateur, chef, everyone can tell you, right? Like, we don't work for the stars.
I know,
they're
right?
lying to you. They're lying to you.
Sure.
You know, it's the stars has such an amazing power on business, right? I was able to see it with Minibar. I was able to see it with JONT, multiple friends that we talk about business, right? Like, you get a star or two and then your business completely changes. And that's not only good for you as a restaurateur or a chef, it's great for your team, right? It's great for your team because your team is, you stop thinking about how can I fill the seats, you start thinking about how can I make this experience better. And then suddenly the whole game changes, you know, like your retention, remains higher, more talent comes knocking to your door, more opportunities for business comes knocking to your door. So the stars and awards in general, I think, open a lot of doors. So that's one of the reasons that what I think is important, and why I think I would be the happiest day of my life if we get 3 stars this year. Why JONT deserves the 3rd star? It is because, in my personal and humble opinion, I think a couple of other 3 stars. And I think JONT currently it's performing not only the menu, the quality, but the full experience, the service. It's performing at the same level of even better that, honestly, any 3 stars that I have been. And I think that's why it deserves it. I don't know when the inspectors come, you know, like I don't know what happens when they're here. I don't know what they're rating. So only they know. But in my past experiences, I try to dine at JONT at least 4 times a year. It's being on par with any other 3 stars around the world, hands down. But you dined there not too long ago, right? So
No, I agree. I mean, I was very bummed last year, but maybe in a couple months, whenever it is, November, October.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It happens. I'm all in. On the topic of Michelin Guide and World's 50 Best, what do you think are their strengths and areas where they could improve?
Michelin stars and 50 best, and all the other ones, right? You have opinionated about dining,
right.
The list,
La list, yeah.
I think all of them have a purpose, right? To guide guests and clientele to help them choose, right? To help them choose where are the next dining destinations. The way I see it,
it's what we do, right?
Yeah,
we all look at it and
I think the 50 best is a snapshot in a year of the restaurants that are having a lot of impact in their society, in their geographic region. Like restaurants that are truly, like not just cooking food. I think all the restaurants that are on the list are doing amazing food, right? But there's also a social element that each restaurant is pushing to. Everyone is telling their own stories. While the Michelin Guide, I think, it seems that it's very food oriented, right? Like they say on their website, the stars are only for the food on the plate. And I don't think there's nothing that's right or wrong with that. I think each of them has their own way to see the ratings, and that needs to appeal for the right client, right? Like if you are looking for a dining experience that you just want delicious food, then probably the Michelin Guide, it's going to be the one that you'll go. If you're looking for a full rounded experience, maybe the 50 best is the one that you'll go. I think both of them highlights different areas that, a diner will be interested in.
Anything they could do to improve, maybe, because everyone has so many opinions, right? About it. I mean, we obviously like it, so we obviously follow them, but
I think something that the guide can improve, and it has been improving, is their take on more regions, right? We can see how in United States now they just announced Texas. Last year they did Denver and Atlanta, Colorado. Hopefully they do for Lauderdale.
We're all done Palm Beach. We're waiting.
But I think that's their expansion, and that's USA-wide. I can see internationally they keep adding countries or cities.
Argentina.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's all very helpful because everyone looks at the Michelin guide like with such much respect. But when you are not covering so many great culinary destinations, it's kind of a little bit, I wish they do it. And then I see now they're doing it. And I think that's something that...
Mexico just got added.
Yeah. Maybe Peru one day. I don't know. Please,
yeah.
Peru, go to Peru. Yeah. And I think that's something that I in the past, I say, I wish they improve that. And then it's great that they're doing it because it gives us, better tools to choose great destinations. You can see how 50 Best expanded into bars, now expanding into hotels. And I think, being able to cover, not only more ground globally, but as well into different industries as bars and hotels, I think that's something great as well.
Let's talk about your travels. Speaking of traveling, I'm curious about the logistics on your extensive trips. Do you have an assistant to iron all of this out? Or do you do this all yourself?
AI assistants, always helpful. All on my own. Yes, I don't have an assistant. Everything is on my own. I love spreadsheets. I use them for everything, not only for travel, but for everything. But yeah, it's like I don't plan that much ahead, to be honest.
Yeah, but the logistic, we'll get into how detailed your travels are. I mean, you can't just wing it. These reservations.
In terms of reservations, yes. I don't think it's changed through the years, right? Like, first big travel I had was in 2014. I did 13 countries in 1 month in Europe. That was like a huge planning, right? Because it was my first trip. My network was not as big as or connected as is now. So I remember I was in a hotel lobby in Berlin, and then I just got a phone call from Noma. Hey, we have a last minute table. Do you want to have it? Yes, of course. And I changed my whole itinerary just to be able to make it at Noma. So at those times, I think my planning was a lot harder because I had to make sure, every reservation gets booked on time and 3, 4, 5, 6 months ahead. And I think as the years start to pass, now I think it's a little bit easier. Maybe I know the chef personally or the manager personally, or I know someone who is very well connected with them. So I'm very lucky not being able to have to plan that far ahead. And as well, there's a lot more trips for events that happen now. I would say 95% of my trips are for an event related. Either there's an award ceremony or there's something that I can keep connecting our businesses with. I don't think I've taken a trip.
Like a personal, I'm just going to go there.
Like vacations? No. Right. It's been, I don't think when was the last time.
For some who don't know, and we are just getting into this, these are not just regular fly to a country and dine your way around trips. I personally need an app after I follow Jonathan's trips on Instagram without even being there. What was the craziest trip this year so far?
This year. So I just did 5 countries in 10 days, maybe less.
Mm-hmm. No big deal.
I went to Dubai for 2 days. And this changed. I was I'm going to go to Dubai for 1 week and just chill there. And that's something that I always say. Every time I go to a country for such a short period of time, I'm going to go for longer. It didn't happen like that. So I went to Dubai for 2 days. I was able to attend to the Michelin Guide release in Dubai. Of course, I did a couple of restaurants. I actually jumped from a plane too. So just to add a little bit more excitement.
What? I missed that.
Yeah, I did some...
Did you post that?
Yeah.
I missed it. Okay.
3 meals in a day and everything. So 2 days in Dubai, jumped 1 day to Mumbai, India. The MAASS team just cooked with us a few weeks before that in DC. So I was I have to go and visit you guys. So 1 day in India, then I flew for 4 days to Singapore. From Singapore, after we went to Taipei for 3 days to eat at three Michelin-starred restaurants. and then finish in Hong Kong for another 4 days. So it was very, very intense trip, 5 countries, very short period of time. Very exciting too. A lot of foods, a lot of dinners, a lot of friends. But I think that's probably was the most exciting because we're doing so much, right? It was like literally, I landed in Dubai at 3:30 a.m. and I jumped from a plane at 5 a.m. I was at breakfast at 9, lunch at 12, first dinner at 6, second dinner at 9. So it was like the trip was like that, non-stop. Saying landed in Mumbai, I was picked up, was able to go with the team for like a lot of street food, in and out, cocktail bars, sat out for dinner at 7 p.m., finish at 11, go to the airport, sleep in the plane, land in Singapore, and there was lunch and dinner for 4 days, and so on. So it was like a very intense, but extremely exciting to connect with old friends, excited to meet new people as well.
So for all of you who think I'm always crazy and traveling too much and I do too much Michelin dining, what do you think now? Because I always say, actually, I'm not even the craziest of them at all. I'm super tame compared to all my other friends. You have a relationship with so many chefs. You kind of touched about this a little bit in the industry now. Is there anyone you've actually been a little starstruck meeting for the first time?
Definitely. We had a really great experience meeting Ferran and Albert. We cooked with Albert in 2019. Last year we went to Merida for the Best Chef Awards. I was able to meet Ferran. We all were having dinner in the same restaurant. And actually just to listening to what he says, it is, you can say like this guy is in another planet, right? Like he's literally in the future. We are just living like a way behind. Just like the way he sees things, he talks about things. It's just like there's nothing like you can just stop and just listen and imagine, right? So I think that was like a truly, truly amazing, because when we worked on at Minibar with Jose Andres for so long, we had to study him very, very much. Gotta read all the books, watch all the videos, all the YouTube videos, so we can understand where, Jose's molecular background came from and the creativity that we were trying to do. And then being able to meet him in person for the first time. So it's my first time actually meeting him and actually having a conversation with him. It was truly special, but also truly, impressive, because you watch the videos, you see how he talks, how he acts, what he thinks about dishes and all those kind of things. But just being in the same room and just kind of like having a conversation was kind of like, it was way too crazy. It was way too crazy. That's why I think still he's the god of, gastronomy in some sort of ways, So.
It's funny because he's supposed to be gone, not gone away, yeah. Like meaning not the limelight anymore, but he's still innovating in his own way.
Yeah,
yeah, he's still there. So it's hard not to be jaded after so many experiences back to back, like you mentioned, for so many years. What are some recent dining trends that have actually surprised and impressed you?
Dining trends? That's a really good question.
Thanks.
The sparkles in the cakes count?
Tiki.
Dining trends. Something that I have seen, it's probably the shorter menus. Shorter menus, yes. I think, like the dining experiences that I have been seeing a little bit in the travels, I think menus are getting a little bit shorter. Times in the restaurant are getting a little bit shorter. There's a lot more emphasis on the team and on the, of course, work-life balance is huge. And that's something that I think like the USA were a little bit behind, to be honest. But for example, traveling a lot abroad, I can see a little bit, the work weeks and the hours that the team puts into the restaurants, and how the work-life balance is a little bit different than what I see here in the US. And I don't know if that also gets related to the length of the menus. But yeah, I think like also guests are tending to not want to stay in a meal for 4 or 5 hours.
Like the longest one you did, which was 9 hours?
Alchemist,
Yeah.
I think was 9-10 hours, but that's a different one, honestly. And I think you want to stay there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like when I go to
That's
Alchemist,
on our list, yeah.
like I want to stay there for forever. You know,
Yeah.
just like, can I move in there? Because it's an experience that is so engaging that you don't feel the time. I literally, every time that we move into outside of the dome, which the dome is when happens most of the dining experience, we're like, oh, it's been 7 hours already. Like we didn't even feel it, you know.
Right.
And I think, you know, like when you're able to achieve that in a dining experience, it's
impressive.
It's impressive, you know. But you know, there's some other experiences. You're sitting in the same table for like 2.5, 3 hours, and it's like, okay, you know, can it come faster, right? But yeah, I think, you know, it's like I see that a lot. Probably like a lot of the menus are becoming a little bit. The structure of the menu are becoming a little bit smaller. Maybe instead of being like a 15, 17 courses, it's less courses, but each course maybe there's more components, right?
Right.
And I think that's come a little bit with the value that the people needs to be perceiving into the dining experience, you know. So I would say those are a couple of things that I've been seeing more and more.
Do restaurants always know you're coming in, or do you try to dine incognito sometimes?
No, I think like most of the time I try to I book normally, you know, like whenever I can I book through the reservation app.
So it's up to them to know who's coming or not.
Yes, and then I think, you know, like again, I do a lot of the dining on restaurants that, you know, there's a certain relationship to chefs and people, or even with the restaurants, you know, we follow the restaurant look what we do. I book with my work email a lot of times, so my signature is there, that I work in the industry, right? But I think most of the time, I think there's like someone who knows me or knows the restaurant, that knows that I'm dining. And to be honest, sometimes I just like want to go incognito. I think most of the time those places are, you know, places that are not in your destination list, right?
Right.
It's gonna have a nice meal, still learning, I still see it, but you know, sometimes you just want to peace and quiet, you know.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just want to work while eating, you know,
Yeah.
and just try to not make my like hey, I work in the industry,
Right.
you know, because not from being me or working into a star restaurant. I think like there's a lot of love for people in the industry. Like you go to a restaurant and then they know that you work in a restaurant. Automatically, there's a lot of love. You know, I think it's a very small industry. People take care of each other. It's in our nature, right? We're into hospitality. So if we know someone does the same thing that we do, we're always, you know, like throwing an extra love here and there. So.
When was the last time you spent an entire 24 hours at home, and being sick doesn't count? Do you ever Netflix and chill?
Last time I spent 24 hours at home, I honestly don't remember. Yesterday actually took a little. I went to Universal Studios.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little like you know.
You know, Michelin.
There's no Michelin. I did ended up going to a steakhouse though. I was craving meat, and I was like, I just went to eat the steaks. But kind of those days, you just craving like hey, I just want something simple. But no, like I know every time, you know, the restaurants in DC close Monday, Tuesdays.
Right.
I always travel somewhere. I someone who always want to explore. There's something always new. I rarely cook at home, to be honest. So most of my meals are always in restaurants because I truly enjoy the experience to be in a restaurant. But I honestly don't remember when was the last time I stayed 24 hours at home.
I kind of figured that would be your answer, but I had to ask. Bringing it back to Florida, you just actually brought it back to Florida. What has been the most challenging part and the most rewarding part of opening in Fort Lauderdale?
It's nice to be back home. I think always consider Florida home, right? Like I moved to Florida. I used to live in Palm Beach. I live in Fort Lauderdale area. I live in Miami. I went to school in Miami. I worked, 4 years in Miami and in Boca. It's good to be back home. It's great to see how the dining experience and the restaurant industry has developed and evolved greatly through those years that I wasn't here. Right. My family lives here, so I've always been very in touch with the area. Definitely the market is different, right? Like we've worked, learned all my tricks in DC, Northeast, and definitely the Florida market is a little bit different. There's different needs from the guests to the industry in general of the restaurants. It's just different. I'm very excited to see all these great restaurants opening. You have from the big chef names internationally opening to the local people who are truly putting beautiful things in the menu. So I think that's exciting. It's exciting to see the development of the whole industry. A lot of people are coming back, people from the East, from the West, coming to open restaurants in Miami. Fort Lauderdale needs a little bit more, people I think is slowly getting up there, right? Always opening with a hotel has its own very interesting things because you cannot just think about the experience of the rest of the guests in the restaurant, right? You have to think the experience of a guest of a hotel dining in a restaurant. So it's a little bit of a mind change. Of course we are inside the Four Seasons, which comes with, people has really high expectations of Four Seasons. We come with, our restaurants is by Michelin-starred chefs. So there's expectations that come from a market that it's not used to Michelin. So I think a lot of people has maybe missed expectations or not clear expectations of what that means. And again, it's kind of like being able to adapt to what the market wants. And we have been doing, I think, really, really great job. I'm seeing the repeat business in the hotel, in the restaurant, in the hotel. Speaks on its own that I think the changes that we're doing and the menu that we're serving, the hospitality that we're doing, it's, sticking very, very nicely for Lauderdale guests.
I know you like trying new places when you come down to South Florida, as you said, and everywhere you go. But what do you think is our strongest restaurant, or what is the restaurant you have visited the most every time you come down to Miami?
Miami? The restaurant I visited the most when I go to Miami is being Matty's.
I love it there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think Valerie is doing such amazing dining. I think she's found the right balance of really great cuisine, really great flavors. I might be biased because I'm Peruvian.
I know, but that's, I think, interesting because you have such a knowledgeable perspective to talk about her food. What an honor to say that Matty's,
it's delicious.
It hits at home. It really is.
It's tasty, and I think that's what you want in food, is to be tasty. Like a lot of people try way too hard, right, and forget about food needs to be tasty, needs to be delicious, and I think that's what Valerie has been able to achieve in her menu. And the vibe also, right? It's like a restaurant that's not tablecloth, it's casual, it's a party. It's a really great vibe. So for me, it's like the great like a combination.
The playlist too.
Yes. And besides that, looking a little bit into the higher end, I honestly love Cot. Mm-hmm. Every time I go to Cot, I had a great meal, great service, great wine. It's probably another restaurant that I've been the most besides Matty's and Cot. This the restaurant that I, frequent the most within Miami.
Okay. Tell me about your relationship with your mom and taking her with you on so many of these special culinary journeys. She lives here, right? She lives more north?
She lives in Fort Lauderdale. She lives in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, she loves to eat. Definitely we had our first dining experience in New York at Per Se, a restaurant I get close to my heart because had a lot of amazing meals there. We went to New York during Christmas. I told her, this is why I moved to, this is why I left Florida, right? Or the hotel industry in general. So I wanted to do these kind of things, it's called Michelin restaurants. And we went to this Italian restaurant, 2 stars then. And the experience was very, very bad. Very, very bad. Undercooked, overcooked, cheap glasses. It was bad. And I was like, I'm sorry, this is not what,
I hate when that happens.
This is not why. Let me make it up tomorrow. Let's try to go. I was like, where should we go that, it's truly, truly amazing, there's only one restaurant I've cried by then, and it was Per Se. It's cried of how perfect it was. I said, let me take her to Per Se. it's probably impossible to get a reservation at per se.
And you created a monster.
And I was kind of like, actually one of the friends that went with me to that dinner in Alinea was working at per se then. So I texted him, hey, can you squeeze us in tomorrow? Like at extremely last minute. I owe you big one. I'm here with my mom in New York, We just had this horrible experience in this restaurant. I really want to show her how a Michelin restaurant is. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're going to squeeze you in at this time. Amazing. Thank you so much. When with my mom the next day to per se, we had an amazing experience. My mom before that used to be like a chicken Caesar salad person. Everywhere we go, it was chicken Caesar salad. Everywhere. And I tell the team, hey, just in case, this is my mom's first experience. We had horrible experience yesterday somewhere else. I really want, to blow her away. Last time, I already told them last time I was dining at per se, I cried of how perfect your service was. And then, of course, in the middle of the service, they roll this geridon in front of the table and start making a chicken Caesar salad table side. Perfectly cooked chicken. The greens were like so perfect. Chef table side parmesan. Amazing, right? It's like, hey, we heard you love chicken Caesar salads. This is the first one we've done in this restaurant. Hope you like it. She cried, right? This is like such perfect and personalized moment. Plus, the whole menu was amazing, the service and the wine. So that was the first time we dined, and since then, she's always truly enjoyed dining out. And normally, I don't think she's going to be the person who's going to be doing those trips on her own, right?
Right.
And I think, your parents always have done so much for you when you are growing up. Even if they cannot do it, they always do it. And I think it's a little bit of paying back, when I'm going to a restaurant, if she's available and she wants to dine and she wants to try it, it's nice to have some, to have her join me, because she truly enjoys it. She truly appreciates it. And again, it's a little bit of paying back to what your parents do with you when you're a child. And the same thing I do with my dad when I go to Peru. We dine in literally all the restaurants that we can every time. So.
Who do you think is the greatest chef of all time?
Chef Ryan?
Besides Chef Ryan.
I honestly think so. I mean,
we love you, Ryan.
Youngest chef in America to get a star. Youngest chef in America to get 2 stars. We closed the deal out of robuchon potatoes, eggs, and truffles. Literally, when I went there, I met him at 9 a.m. in the restaurant, back before we became partners. And he was waiting for me, with scrambled eggs, some robuchon and black truffles in there. And I'm tasting it. And I was like, okay, let's shake hands, No, I truly love what we're doing. And I think I'm excited for you to do the podcast with him, and get him to know him more in the personal levels. Because I think the cooking that we're doing is just truly, truly, truly phenomenal. Besides him, who's another great chef? I think what Rasmus is doing right now is just crazy, right? Oh. Rasmus from Alchemist. What their restaurant is doing is not only...
I need to get there.
You have to go.
I know.
Yeah, it's truly futuristic, right? It's what he's doing right now is what we all will be living in 20 years, 10 years, I don't know. But the concept behind every dish, the social element, the sustainable element, everything is trying to fix a problem that... or maybe not fix it, but adding one more solution for whoever is going to fix it in the future. Being able to do that on a 50 expression menu and to everything to be delicious is just it's very hard, Of course, he has a huge team doing that with him, but being able to lead that team, have that vision, I think it's very impressive, very impressive. I've been there, 6 times? And every time it's been better than the time before. There's always little touches, always one more element to the story, always something else that you think, wow, I want to live long enough to see what these things,
what else,
how these are going to be put in use to the masses, right? Because he's just feeding the 1%ers, but those elements will be used for the masses, right? And that's where big impact change happens, right? So being able to think like that, I think is very impressive. That's why I go back as much as possible, because it is a learning experience every time. It is a delicious learning experience. You know, you can learn and eat at the same time. Sign me up.
I can't wait. I can't wait. What is next for you as we wrap up 2024 and on the horizon for 2025?
A lot more trips and travels, I hope.
Shocker. Shocker.
What is next for me? We're very excited on establishing ourselves here in South Florida, right? We are less than a year old with our restaurants in Fort Lauderdale and in Orlando. So I think I'm very excited to keep coming back and see the impact that we can do as we become more part of the community. Of course, we're very excited about Los Angeles. We have 2 beautiful concepts opening in the SLS Hotel at the beginning of next year. And I see more of that for the next year. I see more of that focusing on our restaurants. We do hope that we have a couple more great news for you guys, that we're opening more new restaurants in the future.
In South Florida?
It's definitely
in Florida.
In our idea.
Okay.
It's definitely in our ideas. We love the Florida market. I think, Chef went to school in Orlando. My family's here. There's always a nice attachment to Florida. We love the community so far in Fort Lauderdale and in Orlando. The South Florida market, I think, is fantastic. It's really growing. There's a lot more happening, right? So I think definitely Florida is in our eyes coming up. There's nothing confirmed yet, but the goal is to keep expanding Hive Hospitality. To keep working in different, trying to go to strategic areas in the USA, why not international? But yeah, hopefully that's a couple of news coming in the future. But yeah, I think it's mostly getting established ourselves with our restaurants, finding the balance between we're gonna be in 4 cities in 2025, right? So it's for a small group like ours, I think it's very, very impactful.
And hopefully that 1 star for MAASS, the 2 stars for OMO in Florida. We'll see. Knock on wood. Wait, what's here? Here's the wood.
The stars are always part of our goals, right?
I know.
Yes.
I know.
I think OMO, you dine there,
my favorite meal in 2024 so far.
Yeah, it's definitely performing at
so
extreme high level. MAASS here as well, we don't know if the guy is coming to Florida, but if someone will know, that would be you, right?
I'm trying to get the scoop, but nothing concrete yet.
And
just a lot of rumors. That's it.
And of course, the restaurants in LA as well, I think the ambitions are going to be very high, right? So I think that's something that you'll always see with us in Hive Hospitality. It's like a very ambitious operator, right? So.
I'm an ambitious fan. Is there anything I haven't yet covered that you would like the listeners to know?
Not much. Come visit the restaurants, right? We're close to you, right? But not much. I think it was a lot of fun. Great questions. But nothing come to mind.
Okay, good. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. To follow all of his adventures, head on over to Memories of a Gourmand on Instagram. And I promise there's never a dull moment. That's it for today, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in and making it this far. Cheers. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you so much.